Alright, g'day guys. Welcome tonight to another Campaign Cartographer 3 video. Tonight we're going to be looking at an introduction to CC3 for brand new users. So, from the perspective of you just bought the tool, you're sitting down for the first time and opening the software after doing your install. Going to be basically just doing a bit of a tour of the software, not necessarily making any maps per se, but just explaining some things to you about, the UI and how different things work, and hopefully it'll help make the learning curve a bit easier to sort of overcome. Alright, so let's jump over and let's have a look at Campaign Cartographer 3+. Alright, so in front of me you can see I've installed CC3+. It's running and I've opened it up and it's come to the load screen for the first time. So, just an FYI, this load screen is actually a map. It's a map file, and it's basically saved in the program data files for CC3+, and it's designed as a landing point for when you first start up the tool. Once you start using the tool, you notice that it loads up the last map you're working on, so chances are you're going to lose visibility on this. So just as an FYI, in case anyone ever wants to go back and find it, you can actually go back and find this file by having a look in C Program Data, Pro Fantasy, CC3+, and then CC3+ welcome.fcw. And just so people know, there are other files here for other add-ons. So character artists, for example, Dungeons of Slay, we won't save changes. There's different add-on files there. Now the reason why I'm saying this is because the first time I loaded up this tool and came in and started obviously getting excited about making maps, I didn't look at that page. I just basically clicked new, went new map, and kept going. Which is fine, I was excited about making maps, but I wish I'd known how to come back and find this tutorial, so I figured I'll just spell that out for you guys right here and now. Okay, so CC3+, you've got it open, you want to start a new map. Let's do that. We're going to go File, New. Not going to save changes on this one, and we're going to come to this screen here. This is where we pick what type of map we want to make. And your list may be different to my list because I've got all the add-ons and some extras. So chances are that you're going to have overland maps, so we're going to start with that. And then we're going to be able to have a look at all the different styles. Now, I've got a lot more styles installed on my machine, so you probably don't have all of these. I'll just do a quick scroll through to give you an idea of all of the different type of styles that are potentially available within this tool. Alright, you see people using tools like Incarnate that's only got one style, and I find that all of the maps eventually start to look pretty much the same. Where personally I like to have the ability to obviously play with other different styles. Tonight I'm going to use this one here. It's a CC3+ Mike Schley Overland style. This comes with CC3+, so you should have this one. And we're going to click Next. Here's where we set the dimensions of the map. So we're going to go 300 by 300 for this one. I'm going to call it My First Map. And click Next. And this is where we pick the background. So if you're maybe making an entire land area, you would not start with ocean. You would possibly start with some land. I'm going to leave it with ocean. We'll make an island. There is the option to turn on a grid here as well, by the way. We'll do that in a minute. The next screen is about creating multiple levels for a map. Just ignore that. That's getting a bit more advanced. And then we get to save the map. Now, little comment on saving. Make sure you save. There's an autosave feature in this that's going to pop up all the time. And when you're a new user, it gets really irritating. When you're a more advanced user, you start to thank it because, sometimes the tool crashes. Maybe your computer crashes, maybe you freeze the whole system, you need to do a hard reboot. Autosave is what's going to make sure you don't have to go back and redo hours and hours of work on your map. I highly recommend you leave it turned on, and I don't recommend you turn it off for that reason. It's just going to save you some time. Okay, so you probably started looking around already by now. We've got our open sort of sea here. We can see down the side here there's a whole heap of tools. There's more tools down the side here. We've got some symbols, icons and tools in here. And we've got more menus all over the place. There's actually buttons all over the place. And I can see why, if you're a new user to this tool, it can be quite confusing the first time you come in. But let's try to break it down and let's have a look at it in a bit of an easier way. Here, These are symbols, so I could click on one and place them. So I'm just clicking here, so I clicked and then I click, and you'll see that I've got this tooltip that's following me around as well. Alright, so it says press tab for next symbol, press shift to rotate, press shift plus control for free rotate, press control to scale. Right click for more options. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold control and move my mouse in and move my mouse out. Alright, so that's how you size something. Then we're going to press tab. What does that do? Nothing in this case. So I will show you what that would do for something else. There we go, tab. Alright, so tab goes to the next symbol of the collection. This little plus icon down here next to the symbol, that's an indication that there are more symbols in that style. So if I expand that, you can see that there's some different variations of icebergs. Okay, there's not a lot, but you know, when you've got things like trees and stuff, it can be really good that there's different styles. Next, we've got shift to rotate in 15-degree increments. So hold shift, move your mouse around, you can rotate the symbol. Probably not really important when you're working at the angle that we're working off, but you know, if you're using City Designer 3 with it's like a top-down view, then that's really handy. Shift plus control for free rotate. There's no sort of clicking there, it's not doing it in increments. Go back. Alright, and then right click. Right click brings up different options. So in this case here I've scaled it. If I wanted to make this little image here the same size that it started off, I could go set normal and click more, and then I'll keep going. Now I'm going to scroll my mouse wheel in, zoom in, zoom out, that's what that's all about. So that's just mouse scroll in. And then if I hold the middle mouse button and drag, that's how you can move around the map as well. Alright, so it's pretty easy to sort of get around. So I've got some symbols here. I don't actually want them in there because I'm just playing. I'm going to come over here to this tool panel and use this delete one. And then I click, and then click. And you see everything was highlighted. I'm going to right click and go do it. And that's how you delete something. So that's pretty simple. And I'll go through that in more detail in a minute. One important lesson though that I really wanted you guys to come across is these white borders. This is something that when I first started this tool I just didn't get. I thought I was doing something wrong. I thought the tool wasn't working. I was trying to figure it out. All it is, CC3 Plus doesn't redraw the whole screen all the time to save on system resources and things like that. So up the top right hand here there is a button called redraw, and if you click it, it'll redraw it and it'll get rid of it. So that can be really handy. Okay, so this is the symbols, and obviously you can see there's different style of symbols. Up here we've got buttons that control the categories for those symbols. So I'm in the C section right now. If I click the mountains, I can bring up some mountain symbols. We've got some like natural features, some cities, and some vegetation. Alright, so these are different style of things. And there's a few different things in here that you'll notice. You'll notice that we've got a symbol, then we've got some tools. So let's have a look at the tools. There's a landmass tool here, and given that we're working with an island, that's probably really important. So I'll click on the left landmass, and it says select starting point for a fractal polygon. Press E, then select an edge to edit an existing entity. Right click to cancel. So I don't really remember reading any of that. All I know is click, click, left 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 click, all the way through. Then when I join it back in, I right click, and voila, we have some land. Alright, so that's pretty easy to do. Then we can do things like, where's the roads tool? I assume there would be one. Here's a roads tool. So I can click, and you can see this is a different style of tool. This isn't fractalized, this is curved. There we go. And so it's left click, left click, left click, and then right click to end. So that draws that quite easily. So that's a tool. And obviously the difference between a tool and a symbol is pretty obvious. Symbol is a picture that you're putting down. A tool is more of a, a vector line or something like that. Alright, so that's what this section here is for. It's generally what you're going to be using to make your map. Up here is the categories for it. There are some other buttons in here that you might want to know about. This green one here, this will show all of the stuff that's in the map. So you can see here that we've used iceberg, we've used the lighthouse, we've used the city. We've used these things in the map so far, so they exist already. This button here is a bit more advanced. I wouldn't go using this just yet, but just an FYI, later down the track, if you want to mix some styles together, you use this open button and you can open up different mapping styles, like the files for them, and you can use them in the one map. Don't mess with that yet. Alright, so that's that section there, and that's probably enough to get you drawing. Now, the thing when you're making maps is you're going to start drawing and quickly realize that you're not happy with what you're drawing and you want to change things. That's when, just going to press escape to get rid of that symbol, that's when these buttons here come in. Okay, so let's say we wanted to delete this town. Oh. We're going to come over here to the eraser button. And we're going to click the town. It has a purple border come up. We're going to right click and go do it. There's that famous white box, and we'll just redraw, and it's gone. Alright, so that's generally the process for deleting something. You click the tool, you click what you want to delete, it goes purple, gets highlighted, you right click, and you click do it. Alright, and then you can redraw. And that's not the only time that that's going to apply. I'm just going to draw some more stuff for us to play in here. Alright, so let's say we wanted to move something. We've put this symbol in and we want to move it. We've got the move, scale, rotate. Now if I click, it's just going to move something. If I right click that button, it's going to give me more options. So I just want to move it. So I'm going to move, I'm going to click the symbol, I'm going to right click, do it, then I'm click and drag. Where am I going to put it? Over there. Alright, we do that again. Not dragging at this stage, sorry, I'm just clicking and then click again to put down. Redraw and off we go. Another thing we might want to do is say this road here, we might want to edit it. So this one here, this is node edit. I use this one quite a bit. I'll click the road and see now we get the option to edit it. So just to do that again, click the tool, click the road where I want to do the edit. It's going to grab it to the closest node. I then click where I want to put it and right click to finish. So there's all sorts of different tools you can do here, and there's some advanced stuff in here, I'm not going to lie. You can add nodes, you can trim things. Many of these things you're probably not going to need straight away, so don't be afraid of it. But absolutely come in here and have a look at these tools. Hold your mouse over them to see what they do, and even try right clicking on them just to see what else comes up. Alright, there's lots of different tools hidden under these things. Now most of them, the ones I use most, move, scale, mirror, rotate, those sort of things. Some of these tools I've never used. Like in here, I don't think I've ever used any of that. Or any of that. But delete, move, scale, mirror, they are things I use all the time. The node edit, I use that all the time. I have added nodes, I have removed nodes, but very rarely. So that's what those tools there are. Now, up here we have a toolbox of tools that are specific to the system we're using. So we're using CC3+. So these tools here are actually going to change. So DD3 is Dungeon Designer 3. If I click that button, you'll notice those tools change. If I click CC3+ back, you notice they're back. Now, these are more tools, and what you'll notice is that some of these tools are actually replicated. I think I've managed to actually open up another system here somehow, but that doesn't matter. We can keep going. So the tool for the landmass was still here, was down in this section here. Where if it come up here, we've actually got the same tool. So for example, I can click and I can do another landmass. Alright, so that's up here. There's another C mass there, if I wanted to add more C. Contours, I've not played with that. Rivers. Rivers can be quite important. Alright, there we go. So just to run you through that, that was click, left click, left click, left click, left click, left click, right click to finish. So very simple to do. While we are doing rivers, there's probably something important that I should show you. Down in the bottom right here is the snap bar, snap section. Some people will come along and go, whoa, why can I only click in certain places? Alright, that's because snap is on. If you don't have snap on, you can click wherever you want. Now, if you're doing symbols, it becomes quite clear, snap is on. I can only do according to the grid that's been set. Alright, so be aware of that button down there when you're playing with these ones up here, because you might need to change things. What else have we got? We've got some different landmass styles. So what I did is I clicked there and it came up with a desert section. So let's put a desert. Well, there's a desert section. Obviously I did a really good job there, so I'm actually going to delete that. And we'll try that again. This time we'll go marsh. You can see I get a much better flow when the snap's not turned on. Snap has its times, that's for sure though. Alright, so we've got a nice marsh sort of style. We've got some roads. Alright, you can right click on them and set different roads, or you can click it and get your default road. Alright, and then we've got some other tools. So there's grids, there's, I don't know what this does, all map drawing tools. That'll load everything up so you can select something. And while we're actually on this screen, I will show you this. See this display sample button? Whenever you see one of these select drawing tool screens, you can click that. That changes it to look like this, which is a lot more useful. Alright, so if I wanted to draw trees, I could come in here, grab the trees tool. There we go. So that was just left clicking all around, right clicking at the end, and it completes the action. And now we've got a nice forest, very thick forest. Alright, so that's that section there. That's the buttons that I use most of the time. I'll be completely honest. That's pretty much me. I don't use any of these buttons up here ever. I'm sure that maybe they have a use. I just don't use them. These ones here I do use. These switch between your add-ons. For now, you're not going to be probably worrying about that. Over on this side is obviously your zoom buttons, so that can be quite handy. Your redraw button, which is obviously handy. Send behind, send on top. I'll explain that in more detail a bit later. Your drawing tools, so if you wanted to actually draw something, you could. Notice that the drawing tool used the color that I've got selected, which is up here. Alright, so you've got a panel of different colors over here, so you could actually draw with the different ones if you wanted to. Again, I don't really use drawing tools that much, but they are there should you want to use them, with the exception of putting in text. So when you're labeling your maps, you can put that in there. Alright, notice again it took the color that's selected from up on the top section here. Now, we mentioned snap, so that's obviously an important one. Now, there's two other things that you really need to know the first time you start CC3+. One, down the bottom left is a command box. Now, you might be looking down there and go, what? That's just a line? No, it's actually a command box. And it's really, really helpful. So, I've just opened up the Landmass Tool. Notice that down in the bottom left, it's saying fractal polygon, first point E, edit. So, press click, first point's down and it's changed. Next point, click. Alright, and then it's saying up, down for strength. What does that mean? I can press up and the vector strength increases, down and the vector strength decreases. So I can go straight line followed by something a bit more interesting. Then I can see one called space for randomize. Alright, and now you're starting to see where this toolbox is getting a bit annoying. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn that off, because I don't like it. It gets in the way. There we go. Just get rid of that mess that I just made. But yeah, alright, so you get the point there. It's quite easy to obviously do some drawing. And when you're doing it, whenever you're doing anything, have a look down here. So instead of using that overlay, I can actually see everything I need down here, right? I can see the tab for the next option. I can see the control for scale. I can see the shift for rotate. It's all down here. And there's some really advanced stuff down there to keep an eye on. So, for example, trace is very, very powerful. Alright, so I've got T for trace. I'm going to press T. It says click the entity, so I'm going to click this land. I'm going to click the starting point, which I'm going to do right here, and then I can draw. Alright, you see I actually drew an entire shape of that entire section, so that can be very powerful. Probably don't worry about that just yet, you will end up using it eventually. Alright, the other really important thing to understand is layers and sheets. Layers is not what you think it is. If you've come from PaintShop Pro, you probably think layers is what controls what's on top of what. And by that, I mean this. Alright, so we've got one symbol on top of the other. So, in PaintShop Pro, if you had a bottom layer and you put a symbol on a top layer, the top layer would obviously be on top of that layer. That's not what layers are for in CC3+. Layers are generally just for collecting things into a bucket so that you can easily turn off all the traps or turn off all the trees or whatever. Sheets, on the other hand, sheets are absolutely vital. So, this is the Sheets button up here, and it opens up this window. There's also a Sheets button over here. Click it, the same thing opens. Alright, you can get to it from either way. Oh, autosave. Save my work every 5 minutes. There we go. So I'm going to click it up here, I'm going to open it up and have a look. These are all the sheets that come with this map style. And if you have a look, you can see that the map border is here, and the background is here. So, the background is the very bottom of your map, the map border is the very top of your map. So, forests will appear on top of land. Rivers will appear on top of forests. And this is obviously quite important to understand. We've got a river. Just let me check to see which one that actually is. There we go. So that forest tool actually didn't come onto the forest layer default. I had to change it then. But by default, if we have a look at this and we're looking at these two going, why is the river on top of the forest? It is because the forest is on the forest sheet. The river is on the river sheet. Alright, so the river is on top of the forest, which is obviously quite annoying. Now, just to show you, if we move this up, we can change that. Okay. I can't remember where it was, but that'll do. Put it back on top, just for the sake of showing you. Now, you probably just looked at it and goes, hang on, what did you just do? You changed the forest that was on a different sheet. That's a button over here. This change properties. You can click it. You can click on something, right click, do it. And that's when you can change which sheet it's on. So this one here should probably be our symbols. Okay, so that is vital. That is an absolute essential part of using C3+, is understanding what goes on top of what. And there's going to be always times, and just to give you an example of where that might be important, I'll put a mountain in, I'll put a tree in. Make something that actually looks little bit more realistic. Alright, now I've done this properly, so that's fine. What if you did it this way? Alright, that doesn't look very good. So that's when you can make sure that these things are actually on their right sheets. So we'll go right click, we'll do it. We'll make sure that is on a land feature. And there we go. Now the trees are in front of the mountain. Okay, so that's a very important feature and something that it certainly took me quite a while to get my head around, because I was thinking from Paint Shop Pro days along the lines of layers. Why aren't there layers on top of the other layers? It just didn't make sense. So sheets are where they are. Now on top of this, there's something else. I don't know how well we'll see it here, but sheets control effects. So activate sheet effects up the top here is a button you can click to turn on sheet effects. We'll click OK. Now, your machine will run slower when you do this. Expect that. And what changed? Excuse me. Okay, so did we see anything actually change there? I don't think I really noticed anything too significant. And different styles of maps can have different tiles, but there's a very obvious change. So I'm going to do that again. I'm going to turn off sheet effects. Alright, and you can see this is a town, that's the text. I'm going to turn on sheet effects, and look what happened. If you look at the rivers as well, they also got a sheet effect around them. So if we have a look at text, we can see that it got an outer glow and a drop shadow. If we have a look at the rivers, we can see they've got an outer glow and a blur. So different sheets have different sheet effects, and this is where some things, like trees for example, might get a drop shadow. Edges of the land might have a blur effect. Yep, there you go, coastline has a blur. And these just make your map look a lot better. You're probably not going to see a lot of it in this example here that I'm using, but actually we probably show you something along the lines of this. So we'll do default farmland, for example. Alright, so that's probably a good example. If I turn it off, click apply, you can see there's a very very straight, neat edge around that farmland. If I turn sheet effects on, there's a blur effect applied, and it just molds into the terrain around it a lot better. So trust me, this is a massive feature of CC3 Plus, because once you really start putting everything together and then you come along and press this button and your map just goes pop, and it just looks so much better. And it's designed for the specific styles that you're working with, and it can look really good. So one thing to remember though, while you can work with this on, it does run quite a bit slower. Alright, my machine's not that bad, it's just chugging along because it's got all the sheet effects turned on, so I tend to turn it off and click apply. Now, something else you can do here, you can't do it when it's off, but when the sheet effects are on, is you can actually edit things. So for example, let's have a look at this text. This is a town, we've got an outer glow, we've got a drop shadow. Let's edit the drop shadow, put an offset of 10, what does that look like? Whoa, there you go, there's an effect. This is a town. This is a town. Alright, so you can change the sheet effects if you want. You can find ones that don't have sheet effects and you can add them. You can even create your own sheets. Like let's say that you wanted to have a specific river section on top of another one. You could actually click add. Alright, you can actually create your own, and then you can move it up wherever you want, and then you can come along here and go, alright, I need to copy that, and I'll paste that there, and I'll come back here and copy the blur, I'll paste that here. So now they both have the same effects, but this river top is actually going to be behind, let's say behind this mountain, not in front. And using that, then we could do something like this. We'll put river top. Alright, that's there. Probably a bad example because that's how it was going to act anyway, but I think you understand the point. It's quite powerful to be able to control things, add your own sheet effects when you need them, add your own sheet levels when you need them, and yeah, basically off you go. So, is there anything else that we really need to cover? I'm going to be completely honest with you. That is enough to get you making maps. That's enough for me to make maps, that's for sure. And to give you an idea, no, we don't need to save that. Using the functionality I just showed you then is enough to make something like this. Alright, I've not used any techniques that are really super duper fancy. I've just basically placed things around the map as I like them. If I don't like them, I delete them and I redo it. And yeah, there's not a lot to it. So look, I think that should be enough to get you going. That should be enough to get you playing in the tool and creating something. There's going to be more stuff you're going to want to learn. There's going to be things that you might not get straight away. But the basics of the tool are pretty simple, I think. There's a lot of functions, there's a lot of things you could learn, there's a lot of buttons you probably could click, but you don't necessarily need to use them all. So if you're going to look at a tool like CC3+, just consider that. Consider the fact that it is a very advanced tool with a lot of back functionality. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you need to learn about it all straight away, or that you need to use it all for every single map. Yes, the learning curve to learn CC3+ from start to finish is high. It's obscenely high. But the learning curve just to make the basics, yeah, I don't think it is. I think you can quite easily come along here and make something very pretty. You know, let's just quickly have a look at this island here, for example. We'll put in a mountain. So I'm going to hold Control. I'm going to scroll in. I'm going to press Tab to change it out a little bit, just to make it a little bit different. Just left clicking, left clicking, left clicking, left clicking. We could bring a smaller mountain in here. We could put some extras around just to make it look a bit different. I've got a mountain background, so what I'll do is I'll use that as a drawing tool to go around my mountain. Just left clicking here. Not even really thinking about what I'm doing, just doing it. Holding down the right mouse button to move. Alright, you can see that just added a nice sort of ground effect around it. Then we'll go into trees. And we'll use a pine forest over this side. Just go over here and size my trees around the same size. Click, click, click. So just left clicking here. It's not that hard. And then we'll put a little town in. Alright, so there we go. Using the techniques discussed in this video, in a very short period of time, I made a pretty good looking island. And yes, I could go into a lot more detail, I could make that look a lot better. But that wasn't hard to do, it was very quick to do, and the results, you know, they speak for themselves. Pretty happy with it. So look, that's Campaign Cartographer 3. That's just a very brief introduction for you to have a play, to learn the where everything is. And yes, there's absolutely more stuff that you need. Just don't be afraid of it. Get in, watch some videos. And if you've got any questions, we've made a Facebook group, the Campaign Cartographer 3 users Facebook group. Just jump in there and ask questions, and there's other people using the tool who try and help you out. And you know, hopefully together we can make this learning curve a bit less, and we can all start making some great maps together. So there we go. That's been an introduction to Campaign Cartographer 3 Plus for new users. I do so hope that's useful. I'll be putting this up on my YouTube channel. If you do find these useful and interesting, please do subscribe to my channel. And if there's any other videos you would like to see, just let me know in the comments. And if you'd like to contact me, you can always jump into the Facebook group, which I'll put a link to in the description. Apart from that, guys, have a great night and have fun mapping, and I'll speak to you online.